in the very beginning, did you feel obligated to do meal prep because you feel as though meal prep was associated with being a personal chef?
Meal prep was the first and only service that I offered because that's all I saw. When I Googled personal chef, it was meal prep.
So, what are the essential elements of meal prep? What are those like you must have?
For the chef, with meal prep, you need to be. Welcome to another episode of The Feast. I'm Chef Lisa Brooks, and I am telling you all about everything personal chef related. Today, I'm with Shaquana, and we are going to talk about the meal prep aspect specifically of the personal chef business. Now, Shaquana, this subject for me is I have a little conflict about
Okay.
talking about meal prep business, and the reason is there are folks out teaching about how to become a personal chef that only focus on meal prep. It's as if people think personal chef equals meal prep. And that's what it used to be when I started 15 years ago, but it has evolved. And we're going to talk about how it has evolved. But there's so many more aspects to being a personal chef than just meal prep. But meal prep's a good thing to have in your diversified portfolio, right?
Yes, it is.
It's
Yeah.
one of the main arteries of income, potentially, if you so choose, in your personal chef business, and that's what we'll get into today.
Absolutely. So, let's jump in.
Let's go.
15 years ago, you just stated that, right?
Yep.
How has meal prep changed from when you started versus how it is now?
Yeah. Um, when I started 15 years ago, there really wasn't much competition for meal prep. If you had a specific diet you wanted to follow, you needed to keep track of, um, you know, your calories or your macros or what have you, or you had allergies or things like that, and you needed someone to prepare your meals for those reasons. Um, you really didn't have much other option than a personal chef, right? When I started out, literally gluten free was like 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 veganism used to be. Like, people like, oh, you gluten free is like a unicorn. Like, oh, you're gluten free, right? But now everybody's gluten free. Everything is gluten free now. But it was kind of like, if you had those special diets, you needed a real solution for those things. Now there's so many options for weeknight mealtime, right? There's so many options. I mean, I can DoorDash. I can order, one of those boxes that gets delivered to my home. Even in the grocery store, a local grocery store, they have prepared meals. I mean, like for family of four, you just take it and throw it in the oven or what have you. So there's so many options for weeknight meals, and so the meal prep industry as a whole has to compete on price, right? It has to compete on price because there are so many options, um, and so I would say that's probably the biggest change, that I've seen. Having said that, there are also more opportunities for consistent clientele in meal prep because more and more people are being diagnosed with allergies and food intolerances. There's tests that you can send off and get results back that say you shouldn't have this in your diet and that in your diet. You can't eat carrots, you can't eat sugar, you can't have yogurt, like random things. They're not allergies, but they're food intolerances. And people are sending off and getting these tests done, and they're not eating nightshades, and they're not eating this and that. And if you're gonna adopt that type of lifestyle, you need, it's a really good fit for to have the personal chef as a solution. So there's opportunities in the way things are changing. There's opportunities to take advantage of. But that's, I think, what we're going to talk about some today is how do we shift with the market? How do we shift with the times? And how do we make the most out of this service of meal prepping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what sparked your interest? What, in the very beginning, did you feel obligated to do meal prep because you feel as though meal prep was associated with being a personal chef? Or was there something different that kind of motivated you to add meal prep as one of your services?
Meal prep was the first and only service that I offered because that's all I saw. When I Googled personal chef, it was meal prep. The two associations that existed at that time, I think they're defunct at this point, but it was the American Personal and Private Chef Association and then the United States Personal Chef Association, the USPCA. Those were two kind of organizations that were setting the standards and having some basic education about what it means to be a personal chef. And it was meal prep. It's how to do meal prep. In fact, if you were to look at anyone's website who has the little American Personal Private Chef Association little
Mm-hmm.
seal on it, their websites look identical, like literally identical. Every single thing about it, like how it works, like that's how my website was when I started because I was copying. Oh, this is what you do. You copy that, and this is how it works, and this is how you charge. And it was just like they were setting the standards for the industry at that time, and so there wasn't a choice. I mean, that's what meal prep was what a personal chef did when I started. So it's the only thing I knew, and that was exciting to me. I'm coming from a place where I'm miserable every day, and where I get to cook for a living. I get to cook, put on my earbuds, zone out. These people at work, and I just get to go in their house, cook, and they're paying me for that. It sounded amazing to me, and so, and it can be. It still is,
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity to have, if that fits your personality and that's what you like to do. It's really great steady income.
Yeah. So, what are the essential elements of meal prep? What are those like you must have?
For the chef, um with meal prep you need to be super organized. Meal prepping is, because it is, the true value lies in meeting people's dietary needs. Like, if you're going to have a real serious meal prep business, you need to cater to people who have food intolerances or allergies or something that's driving them to need meals specially prepared for them, right? Because then you're not an option, right? They need, like, you are how they eat. You know what I mean? You got a soy allergy, a dairy allergy, and gluten allergy, you can't eat out nowhere, right? So they need a solution. So because of that, you need to be knowledgeable in obviously in food preparation, in portioning, in food safety, 1,000%. That's anyone who's cooking anywhere for anybody. You need to know how to keep food safe at proper temperatures, how to cool food quickly, because you can't just put hot food in the refrigerator. You got to keep the food safe. So that's kind of baseline. That's minimum requirement, but you need to know how to calculate nutritional information, how to provide the macros, how to weigh and measure things so you're giving people the proper ingredients. You need to know the substitutions that you can make or you need to make. If someone's dairy free, well, how do I make this thing dairy free? They're nut free. How do I make this thing nut free? They're gluten free. How do I make this thing gluten free? You know what I mean? Like, you have to know the substitutions that you make, and you educate yourself and you learn those things. I'll never forget that the first gluten free client that I had, which I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this job, even though I was like, I'm never gonna cook gluten free. But I was like, I don't need to know that. and and so I think, bread. Obviously, we know bread is gluten free. Bread, wheat, right? And so I had like beer braised ribs on his. He was eating paleo, and I had beer braised ribs on his menu. And he said, "Hey, beer's made from wheat. This is gluten in beer." And I was like, "What?" And I totally just didn't know.
Yeah.
But I'll make a mistake one time, y'all never make it twice, right? So, but that was my moment when I was like, no, I really need to know my shit. Like, I need to know this
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to make someone sick, right? And so, I really had to be very. There's just so many things. Like, when I first started out, I didn't know, soy was gluten. I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
beer was gluten, and I'm just thinking bread. Okay, no
Yeah.
bread, no breadcrumbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
No flour. It was so much more than that. So educating yourself on those things really important for meal prep. Other than that, then I would say just organization. particularly if you're doing in-home meal prep, then you have a specific amount of time that you're going to be in this person's house cooking for them. I mean, preparing those meals. And nobody wants you in their house 7, 8 o'clock at night because you're unprepared or unorganized, and it's taking you 8 hours to cook
Yeah.
their food, right? I don't care how much food you need to cook. You need to have a production plan. You need to be organized. Have a system by which you that you're working from, so that you can get in, do everything, and just get out in a reasonable amount of time. So organizational skills, I mean, probably amongst other things, but those are probably the top ones. Hey, have you ever wondered what type of personal chef business is actually the best fit for you? Like, should you be doing private dinner parties, meal prepping, or vacation gigs? Look, I got you. I created a free quiz that will tell you exactly which business model makes the most sense for your lifestyle, your strengths, and your goals. And it takes just 2 minutes to complete. At the end, you'll get a personalized roadmap that'll show you how to earn more while working less and the exact steps you need to get started. Don't waste time guessing. Hit the link in the description, take the quiz, and start building the personal chef business that's right for you.
And then the organizational skills that you feel as though a meal prep personal chef should possess, where would you say and this is for someone who's new, starting out, right?
Yeah.
What would you say, how would they go about the food packaging and the presentation and the storage? How did you maneuver through that starting out?
Well, because I did look at those organizations and got information on like what other people were doing at that time with the packaging and such. But in your everything for meal prep, for custom meal prep, which is really what I'm speaking about. Custom meal prep is when you're cooking for a family or individual, couple, what have you, your client, and you are cooking specific for them, custom to them based on their preferences. So that's what I'm referring to. Um, I'm not referring to larger meal prep businesses where so like here's our menu, we're just making this food and people can order it, right? And we'll ship out the boxes or what have you. I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about a personal chef that does custom meal prep for clients. Just want to make that distinction. And then I forgot
the question is, how in the very beginning, how did you deal with food storage, preparation? Yeah. What was that kind of, and even the presentation on how you boxed up the meal to give to the client?
I don't even know how I kind of got all derailed. Yeah, I got all derailed in there. So with the containers and packaging, the presentation, all of that, you're going to do an assessment with your client to understand what they want. And that's every single facet of everything, like portion sizes, what types of cheese you like and don't like what type of sweeteners you use and don't use, what type of milks, if any, like grains, like all of the thing, how you want food packaged. Do you want it family style? Do you want it packaged individually so you can heat it? Do you want to use microwavable, recyclable containers, or do you want to use glass Pyrex containers? Like, you're asking them. There's everything on that client assessment form, and so then you will prepare things accordingly to their preferences. Some people they want the recyclable, BPA free plastic containers, and then there's people who absolutely completely against that and want to have glass containers. So that's going to so those decisions are being driven by your customer's preference is my point there, right? You asked about presentation as well. You would think that, well, I mean, what does presentation matter if it's meal prep? But I mean, it totally does. I mean, you can still plate up something and make it look nice and appetizing in a meal prep container. My friends always joke, and I'll say this, I always have done this with takeout containers. When I would go to a restaurant and I'm like taking food to go, right? I always plated it in that stuff in the doggy bag, right? I always plated it so it'll be appetizing when I open it up to eat it later, right? And so even when I worked in corporate America and go to lunch, and I'll bring the leftovers back, because some of my coworkers would eat anything, like, it was before COVID, so like they didn't care, you ate off of it, whatever. But I would plate that little thing up and it would look like a brand new meal. Like I never ate off of it or anything. It would just be like brand new meal. So yeah, you can make something look really nice, in the container. So, um, plating those things up, being able to cool them down properly, to store, label, package them. I mean, that's all part of the skill sets and the things you need to learn to just be able to do meal prep, efficiently and effectively. Um, and you're really operating like a pro at that point.
Yeah. And we all know, if any of you have been to the grocery store in the past year or so, groceries are expensive.
Yeah.
How has that affected the meal prep portion of
Mm.
your business?
So meal prep for us being personal chefs and doing custom meal prep, my pricing strategy is always professional fee plus groceries.
Okay.
So the grocery cost is always completely bear by the customer.
Okay.
And I believe that's the best model because grocery prices fluctuate
Mm-hmm.
and because people's preferences also determine the difference in what the grocery cost would be. And so if I had a flat price, for example, if it's like $400 and includes the groceries, right? But your family doesn't care if I go to, Sam's, Walmart, food, like you don't care. We
Mm-hmm.
just need food for these kids. You know what I mean? But then I have another family that's like, no, you got to go to Whole Foods. We need organic, grass fed, wild caught, all
Mm-hmm.
the things, non GMO. Like their grocery bill is going to be way higher. And so who's going to bear the brunt of that difference if I have a flat fee? Me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having a fee plus grocery cost structure, the customers, the grocery price is just transferred to the client, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that it doesn't affect my professional fee whatsoever that groceries are going up or down.
Okay.
The fluctuation in grocery prices, obviously, it affects your clients because their grocery bill is going to go up. And that's something just as a professional, you might communicate. Um, you may communicate it in a way that is, I mean, people probably know. I mean, if they go to the grocery store for anything, they know the grocery costs have gone up. But to be able to just communicate, you may have noticed higher grocery prices. There's been an increase in several things. Post COVID, that was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and eggs went up to $10 then, right? $10 for a regular non-cage free dozen of eggs. But it's like most people knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you read the paper or watched the news or anything, you knew that. But something that just as a courtesy, you can kind of say, you may notice the grocery bills are becoming higher. So the fluctuation in market pricing. Um, but you're not, in any case, you're not bearing the brunt of that. It's completely, the grocery cost is completely separate. Therefore, those fluctuations, the customer is, paying for those fluctuations.
And you've been doing meal prep. This was the first service you ever provided for
It
Heart and Soul.
is.
Okay. This is like the OG of Heart and Soul, right? So,
Yeah.
with that being said, what's the longest meal prep client you've ever had?
Oh, wow. We have a client still right now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they've been with us, I want to say 7 or 8 years, and we still cook for them. Like we are how they eat.
And has there been a shift on their side of things? Has there been a shift in their menu, shift in their needs, or is it just a consistent kind of like, we know Heart and Soul is there, we know they're gonna show up?
Uh-huh.
Is it's that type of relationship, has it been created, or have you noticed there's been changes with the longevity of that
Well,
relationship?
that's a really great question because it's just a very specific. All of this is very specific to a client because it's custom, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say in regards to the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because when you show up and you are caring for people in this way and you are solving their problem and um, you truly are solving a problem, like you are how they eat, which is really the only clients I suggest you go after,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, are the clients that need the service. If it's just a luxury, people can take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like I said, they have lots of other options for weeknight meals. But for that person who doesn't cook and can't eat X, Y, and Z, this is a real solution for them. So they need the service. So when you take care of them and you honor them and you've been taking care of them and you've been just, doing right by them and operating professionally, showing up on time, and everything's always the best quality, etc. You're just really, you're nurturing that long-term client because you're giving them the best. You're delivering on your promise. And so even over time, like with this specific client, there have been different chefs over time that they've probably worked with 4 different chefs at Heart and Soul, just
Mm-hmm.
because of, life changes. Somebody has a baby and moves on,
Mm-hmm.
but they trust our company and our brand because of the relationship that we have. Um, and not to say that we're never, um, there's always things. There's always, I won't say issues, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're cooking for somebody, like people's diets change, or people like
Yeah.
they're on a new kick, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, or whatever the case
Mm-hmm.
may be, and you're catering to that. And there's times when customers are like, oh, this was, they're giving your feedback every week. But sometimes it's not that you never make a mistake that creates customer loyalty. I think it creates customer loyalty more how you handle
Mm-hmm.
when you make a mistake, right? How you handle it, how quick you are to take care of it, redo it, refund it, or whatever the case may be, because the relationship is more important than this, this week's fee or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that ability to show how customer centered you really are is what will maintain a relationship, you know, um, over years. That,
Mm-hmm.
of course, and the fact that, again, we sought out a client that actually needed our service, and it wasn't just a want, it was a
Yeah.
need for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what may be some challenges now that you are where you are? What are some challenges that you feel as though you've overcome with meal prep, being a personal chef? If there's some things that you may have triumphed over in the beginning that you no longer have an issue with, that you would maybe tell someone, hey, these are some things to
To watch out for.
possibly look out for
um
compared to where you are.
well, the first thing that comes to mind, and you tell me if this is what you're asking, but the first thing that comes to mind is, if you're going down this road with being a meal prep chef, and offering this service as a personal chef, is that there is seasonality and fluctuations in meal prep. There are definitely uh, times when it's slower throughout the year, and times when it is bustling. Back to school, bustling. August, September, people are like, okay, we done with vacation. You know what I mean? We vacation for 3 months, time to get our life back on track. These kids at school, what are we gonna eat for dinner? Let's figure this out. So you get an influx of folks. And then when it starts to get like maybe end of October, November, holiday season starts, they'll fall off. And these are people that were like we're not how they eat. They have other options, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they tried it, right? And then January, finished with the holidays. Now I gotta lose 15 pounds. New year, new me, and resolutions. And then you have another influx of people. Yeah, business is great for meal prep. January, February, March, it starts getting warm outside. People they
Mm-hmm.
start getting back out, and then we going out to eat a couple of times a week, 3 times a week. Now we're not eating this food, and then it's gonna slow down and go into that summer slump, right? So there's a seasonality to it, and just to know that, um, going into it, so that you're prepared, when there's a bounty. And that's, I mean, it's just smart financial advice anytime. And when you're an entrepreneur, when things are flowing and overflow, save so you're not worried about slow seasons, right? Second thing is diversifying the services that you offer, so that when it slows down in holiday season, if you're doing private dinner parties, then you're going to be booked out with dinner parties. If it slows down in the summertime because of vacation with meal prep, then you can do vacation chefing, which is really like meal prep just for people who are vacationing. So um, that way you cover yourself for the whole year. So I would say, um, we would have times in our business when it's like, gosh, July and August are rough, rough. Like, oh my God, like what is happening? And we had to figure out a way around that slump. You know, the holidays no problem, but that summer slump was like, okay, what do we got to do? And just so happened that we live in a place where we're a couple hours from the mountains, a couple hours from the beach. We the lakes are here locally, and being able to do those vacation rentals and vacation chefing, which is kind of like meal prep in a sense. You're just preparing it real time. Um, is can be a game changer in keeping your revenue levels up when meal prep business is slow. But also take advantage of that time and make sure you plan your vacations for July, because that's when it's going to be slowest for you.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're on this journey to turn your passion for cooking into a real business, you don't have to do it alone. You need to join the Chefanista Collective. This is the place where you get the support that you need to accomplish the dream that you have. There are live masterclasses that take place, tons of resources in there, but the most important thing is you get to meet other chefs on the same journey, and we're in there celebrating our wins. All that's missing is you. This is your community, this is your tribe, and it's your time. So I'm offering you a 14-day free trial so you can hop in and see for yourself, because this is something that really can't be explained. It has to be experienced. This is the way you get this done faster, stronger, and better, because we do it together. So click the link in the description below to join the Chefanista Collective completely risk-free.
Yeah. You answered that exactly how I wanted you to answer that, because the truth of the matter is that different services have their highlight season.
Yeah.
And there are seasons to where it's going to be up, and there's seasons to where it's going to be down.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to ask you personally, what would be your personal favorite thing about meal prep? Like if you had to hop into meal prep, what would be that thing you're like, I miss that. That's one thing that I miss about meal prep.
I actually like I don't want to say batch cooking, but I'm this is gonna sound weird, but it's because it's just me, and maybe sometimes I'm weird. But I like um I'm kind of competitive. I can't even say this without laughing, but um I am super competitive.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what does that have to do with meal prep?
Mm-hmm.
Because you go in with this plan, and I have 5 dinners to make, maybe like a breakfast or whatever that's on the plan today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna set a timer and try to get through this as quicker than I did the last time. So it's like I would be in competition with myself on the time.
Okay.
Like, how fast can I get through this meal prep? I miss that it's just earbuds, music, my plan, and the food, and just the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm transforming the ingredients, and then just making it look nice, putting the labels. There's just something about that. I mean, it's kind of it's methodical. Like it's just it's alone time. It's almost like a peaceful time. There's no rushing. There's no rushing to it other than the pressure I put on myself. Um, to just, you want to get out of the house in an efficient amount of time. But when people love the solitude, they love to just put on some earbuds and just cook, just them and the ingredients. Meal prep's gonna be perfect for them. I mean, that's the one thing I say. It's just a very peaceful. It's like a really peaceful day, right? So that's what I would say I miss most about personally doing meal prep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is there anything else that you would like to add? Because we started off the beginning of this episode talking about how meal prep is just a portion
Yes.
of personal chef services. So can you just enlighten
Yeah.
everyone? Let us know where we can find out more information, not just about the portion, but how to expand that, how to expand the other services, but also not dilute the importance of meal prep.
Absolutely. If meal prep is your thing and your lane and it's where it brings you joy, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The beauty about being an entrepreneur, an independent chef entrepreneur, is you get to decide. You don't have a boss. You decide the things you do, the services you offer, when you want to work, who you want to work for, etc. There are other coaching programs or coaches that I've seen out that are teaching how to be a personal chef. And I'm putting it in air quotes because they're literally just focusing on meal prep. Again, as if personal chef equals meal prep. And for me, it's one part, it's one piece of the puzzle. It's like one artery, and I have several income streams in my portfolio, if you will. Like we offer private dinner party services, candlelight dinners for two, vacation chef services, cooking classes, and I mean private in-home dining experiences that happen to be cooking classes or interactive, um, cooking classes, and then meal prep. And there's beauty in having that diversification because you got your meal prep Monday, Tuesday, usually Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, beginning of the week. Everybody wants their meals for the week and early in the week. So you're likely not doing meal prep Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But guess what you are doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Dinner parties, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, honestly, we have dinner parties every night of the week, honestly, because birthdays happen every day. Anniversaries happen every day. But it's just a nice balance to have. And you can, meal prep that's weekly money right on time every week, right? If you got 3 clients paying you $500 each a week, that's $1,500 a week on time every time. It feels like stability, right? And then your dinner party, maybe a $10,000 dinner party this week, and a $1,000 dinner for two the next week. Like that fluctuates, so it's maybe nice to have that steady with meal prep, and then the dinner parties coming in getting you with like a nice amount of change. Um, the vacation chefing, the cooking classes. These are just different ways to express yourself as a personal chef and offer an amazing experience beyond um, just meal prep. Meal prep has its place. What I teach, which is different than what anyone else is teaching out here that I have found that's teaching about personal chefs and the personal chef business, is that these it's in these other lanes where we have the ability to stack on additional value with creating experiences that really makes that equation of the work less, earn more possible. Um, so if you want to get the whole picture, the entire picture of what's possible as a personal chef, then make sure you follow me, subscribe to this channel, keep watching my podcasts, check out my programs, my community. All of the information is in the description below, and you can reach out and you can see exactly what type of lane might be the best fit for you. Thank you for watching another episode of The Feast. I'm Chef Lisa Brooks, and I'll see you on the next episode.